Some houses keep secrets, others keep time. But what happens when that time no longer belongs to you? Account 1. The daughter. We'd only been in the house for a couple weeks when I noticed it. My parents were still unpacking boxes, arguing about where the couch should go, where to hang the old family photos, trying to make this drafty place feel like home. I was wandering the halls with nothing to do, touching the faded wallpaper, peeking into rooms that still smelled like dust and mothballs. My mom said the house had character. To me, it just felt heavy, like every corner had already been claimed by something unseen. You know that strange silence a place can have? Not peaceful, but expectant? That's what it felt like. Like the house was waiting for us to notice something we weren't supposed to. The first time it happened, it was late at night. I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing this faint sound. Ticking. Not steady like a normal clock, but irregular, skipping beats, rushing ahead, then slowing down, like it couldn't make up its mind. At first, I thought it was my imagination, just me being restless in a new room. But the sound didn't stop. It followed me. I got up, padded barefoot into the hallway, and the ticking seemed to move with me, deeper into the house. The further I went, the louder it became. Soft at first, then sharp, almost metallic, echoing against the old wood floors. It led me to the living room, and that's where I saw it. A clock sitting on the mantel above the fireplace. I knew instantly it wasn't ours. It was old, carved from dark wood, with little ornate swirls and patterns I didn't recognize, in a glass case with a brass pendulum inside. Its face was cracked across the middle, like a spider web. The hands were frozen at midnight, and there was dust on it. Not like something recently placed, but like it had been there for years. I couldn't understand how my parents hadn't noticed it while unpacking. I leaned in closer, expecting to hear the ticking loudest of all, but the clock wasn't working. No movement, no ticking. Dead still. Except the sound hadn't stopped. The uneven ticking was still there, only louder, and it wasn't coming from the clock at all. It was inside the walls, traveling along the plaster and beams, sometimes just behind me, sometimes ahead, like it was circling me. My skin prickled all over, and I couldn't shake the feeling that if I stood there long enough, the hands on that clock would suddenly lurch forward, and I wouldn't like what came after. I don't remember leaving the room. It felt like I blinked, and I was back in my bed. When I looked at my phone, it said 2:17 a.m., but that didn't make sense. I thought I'd only been up for 10 minutes, 15 at most. Where did the other 2 hours go? I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling the faint throb of the ticking still in my head, like it had gotten under my skin. The next morning, my mom asked why I'd been wandering the house at night. She said she heard me walking, then heard a clock chiming downstairs. But when I told her about the old wooden clock on the mantel, her face went blank. She shook her head and said there wasn't any clock in the living room. I ran down to check. She was right. The mantel was bare. No dust rings, no marks, nothing to suggest anything had ever been there at all. I didn't say anything after that, but I've noticed something strange about this place. Time doesn't behave right. Sometimes minutes stretch into hours. Sometimes whole chunks of time vanish without warning. And whenever it happens, I swear I see something out of the corner of my eye. A shadow, standing still in a doorway or just at the end of the hall, waiting, watching. Always near where the clock should be, frozen at midnight. Account 2. The father. I didn't believe her at first. Kids get spooked in new houses all the time, creaky floors, drafty windows, a few bad dreams. That's what I told myself. But then I started hearing it too, that damn ticking. It wasn't every night, not at first. Sometimes I'd wake up around midnight, thinking I'd dreamed it, only to realize it was real, soft, deliberate. Tick, 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 tick. Uneven, like whoever was keeping time didn't know how clocks were supposed to work. One night, I decided to follow it. I got out of bed, careful not to wake my wife, and crept downstairs. The house was pitch black, but the ticking guided me, pulling me along like a leash. The air was heavy, thick, almost wet, like walking into a storm. When I reached the bottom step, I saw it. The old clock my daughter had described, sitting right there on the mantel, plain as day, except this time it was working. The pendulum swung side to side, scraping against the glass like nails on a coffin lid. The hands were moving too, jerking forward in these violent, unnatural bursts. They didn't move smoothly the way a clock should. It was like watching something convulse. And then, without warning, it began to chime. Not the soft, pretty melody of a grandfather clock. No, this was harsh, deafening. Each strike rattled through the floorboards, shaking the picture frames on the wall. 12 times. Midnight. The last chime was so loud I thought the glass case would shatter. I held my breath, staring at the clock, and in that silence after the 12th strike, I heard something else. A whisper. Not from the clock, but from just behind me. Low. Almost amused. I couldn't make out the words, but they crawled across my skin like cold hands. I spun around, but there was nothing, just a dark hallway stretching into blackness. When I turned back, the clock was different. The face wasn't cracked anymore. It was whole, shining, almost new. And the hands, they weren't at midnight anymore. They had jumped ahead to 3 o'clock. Exactly 3. And in the reflection of the glass, just for a moment, I saw something over my shoulder. A face. Hollow, pale, with eyes like black pits, watching me from the shadows. By the time I turned, it was gone. I didn't sleep the rest of the night, but I thought maybe, just maybe, I'd dreamed it. Stress, exhaustion, new house, that's what I told myself. Until the next morning. My wife was making coffee when she asked me why I'd set the stove clock to 3 a.m. I hadn't touched it. I swear I hadn't. But there it was, blinking 3 a.m., like someone had reset it in the middle of the night. And then she said something else. She said she'd heard footsteps while I was gone. Heavy ones. Crossing the upstairs hall, pausing outside our bedroom door. She thought it was me, but when she called out my name, the steps didn't answer. They just stopped, dead silent. She said it felt like something was standing there waiting, listening. The look on her face when she told me that, I'll never forget it. Pale, shaking, like she didn't even recognize our own home anymore. And that was the moment I stopped pretending. This house isn't just creaking and settling like old places do. Something is alive in these walls, and it's keeping time with us, waiting, marking the hours until what? I don't know. But every night since, I've been terrified to look at a clock. Because I'm afraid one of these nights, I'll see it move when it shouldn't. And that when the hands finally stop, something else will start. Account 3. The mother. At first, I thought they were just imagining things. You hear enough ghost stories about old houses and you start to see shadows where there aren't any. But when it started happening to me, I couldn't explain it away. The first time was in the kitchen. I was washing dishes and the air suddenly dropped. Freezing, like someone had opened the freezer door behind me. And then, in the reflection of the window above the sink, I saw it. The clock. That broken old thing, clear as day, sitting on a counter. But when I spun around, it wasn't there. Just an empty counter and the hum of the refrigerator. I told myself it was a trick of the light, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I dropped a glass right there in the sink. After that, it got worse. I started losing time. Entire minutes would vanish without warning. I'd be folding laundry, and suddenly the basket would be empty, the clothes all put away. I'd be in the middle of a phone call, and when I checked the clock, an hour had passed. But I couldn't remember a word of what was said. It was like the house was pulling me forward, skipping me ahead like a broken record. And every single time, when I came back to myself, I'd hear it. Tick, 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 tick. Always in the walls, or the floor, or behind the door, like it was laughing at me. One night, I woke up with the strangest feeling. Not from a noise, but from silence. The whole house was dead still. I looked at the alarm clock beside the bed. The numbers were frozen. 3 a.m. Exactly. I shook my husband, but he didn't stir. The kids didn't either. It was like they were all locked in place, trapped in that frozen moment. And then the sound started. Not ticking. Knocking. 3 sharp knocks coming from inside the bedroom closet. I sat there staring, my breath clouding in the air, waiting for it to happen again. And it did. 3 more. Louder. The kind of sound that rattles in your teeth. I wanted to run, but I couldn't move. My body wouldn't let me. The closet door creaked open, inch by inch, though no one touched it. The hinges groaned like they were straining under a heavy weight. I couldn't see anything inside, just the dark. But the smell hit me. Old wood and rot, like damp earth. And then I heard it. A whisper, curling out of the dark, thin and sharp as a razor blade. Time's almost up. That's what it said. I swear to you those exact words. My whole body went cold. And then, just like that, the clock beside the bed started again. The numbers blinked, and the room came back to life. My husband stirred, mumbling something, completely unaware of what I'd just seen. But the closet door, it was still open. I haven't slept right since. Every night I wake up around 3. Sometimes the clocks are normal, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're ahead by hours I never lived. Sometimes they're stopped completely. But always, the house feels like it's waiting for me to notice. Like it's testing how much I can take before I break. And I can't shake the feeling that whatever's inside that clock isn't just marking the hours. It's counting down. And when it reaches the end, something is going to step out of that dark and make sure we pay attention. Account 4. The youngest son. I didn't want to tell anyone at first. I thought they'd laugh or worse, get mad at me for making things up. But I wasn't making it up. I saw him, the man with the clock. It started with the ticking, louder in my room than anywhere else. I lay in bed, trying to sleep, and it would creep out of the walls. Not fast, like a normal clock. Slow, dragging ticks, like each second weighed 100 pounds. And sometimes, between the ticks, I'd hear breathing. Heavy, ragged breathing. Like someone was standing right next to my bed. I'd bury myself under the blankets, but it didn't help. I could still hear it. Sometimes I thought I could feel it. The blankets rising and falling with someone else's breath, not mine. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I pulled the covers down and looked. At first, nothing. Just my room, quiet and dark. But then my eyes went to the corner, near my desk. And that's when I saw him. A man, or what was left of one. He was tall and thin as a scarecrow. His skin looked stretched gray. In his face, I couldn't see it clearly, but I could see the mouth. Wide, cracked, with teeth too long for his head. And in his chest, where his heart should have been, there was a clock. The old broken clock. Its hands twitched and jerked, like they were trying to move but couldn't quite make it. And with every twitch came the sound, tick, tick, tick. He didn't move at first. He just stood there, watching me. I couldn't see his eyes, but I knew he was staring. I could feel it crawling across my skin, and then he tilted his head, slow, like a puppet being pulled by strings. That's when I saw something else. His shadow wasn't right. It stretched across the wall, but it didn't match his shape. The shadow was bigger, wider, like something huge was hiding behind him, using him as a mask. I wanted to scream, but when I opened my mouth, nothing came out. My throat locked up. The only sound was that clock. Tick, tick. And then, suddenly, the ticking stopped. Dead silence. He started walking toward me, one step at a time, each one echoing like boots on hollow wood. I tried to crawl back, but my body wouldn't work. It was like I was glued to the bed. He stopped right at the edge, his chest, the clock, inches from my face. And then the hands started spinning. Not ticking anymore, spinning backward, faster and faster. His mouth opened wider than it should have, wider than any human mouth, and I swear I heard the words inside my head. Not out loud. Inside.
You can't run from time.
The next thing I knew, it was morning. Sunlight was in my room, the birds were chirping. For a second, I thought it had been a dream. But when I looked at my desk, my school papers were all yellowed, like they'd aged years overnight. And on the wall above my bed, carved into the paint, were the words, tick, tock. Deep, like someone had scratched them with a knife. I touched the letters and felt splinters of wood where the wall had been cut into. That's when I knew it wasn't a dream. And it's not just the clock anymore. It's him. And he's waiting for us to run out of time. Time always runs out. For the family in that house, the question isn't if the clock will strike, but what happens when it does. At least this family faced the clock together. Some objects, like a certain portrait, prefer you alone, whispering until your closest ones are gone. If stories like this keep you up at night, subscribe, because there's always more in the archives. And if there's a tale you want to hear, leave a comment. Chances are, I've already got it waiting.